I always say this, but the growth journey, the healing journey, this life journey is not linear. And there's gonna be times where we revert back to our old story, our old version of ourselves, and fall out of alignment with the higher version, the new story, the person that we see ourselves as now and want to continue to see ourselves moving forward as we are growing and changing and becoming higher and higher and higher versions of ourselves. So I've gotten to a place in my journey where this doesn't happen to me nearly as much as it did, I want to say, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now I'm at a place where this happens maybe once every 6 months, and soon maybe even once a year, maybe even less. I don't know. But the gap between this version that I am now and the versions that I dipped back into are getting smaller and smaller, until this weekend when I had a big dip into the old version. And I could have looked at that as a really negative thing and stayed in the old version longer than I did, but I decided, no, I don't need to. Like, that was me then, this is me now. Let's do everything I can to remind myself of who I am now and get back in alignment with the version of me that I desire to be. Hi, I'm Julia. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. This video is all about how I get back into alignment after manifesting a negative circumstance or manifesting a moment that was very triggering and brought me back to a version of myself that I don't desire to be. And this video is going to be very off the cuff. I really didn't even write any notes for it. I just kind of was like, you know what? This is what I have been going through the past few days. Let me just share with you what I'm doing and what I have done to get back to where I am now. I wouldn't say I'm 100% the version of myself that I desire to be, because I feel like we're always sort of working towards better and better, but I feel like I definitely got myself out of a negative spiral and now have a lot to reflect on, which I could look at in a negative light and be like, wow, look what you did. Look how embarrassing you are. Look how shameful you are for making these decisions and doing these things. But instead I'm choosing to be like, okay, well, those things that I chose to do were for a reason, because there was something inside of me that was unhealed that needed to come to the surface for me to heal. And yes, maybe it's a little darker. Maybe I'm ashamed of it. Maybe I don't like that part of me, but I still need to honor, respect, and own that part of myself to reintegrate it in so that it's no longer in my shadows and no longer able to make choices for me that I wouldn't want to be making. So to give you a little backstory so that you could understand what I mean by all this, so I'm not just saying all these vague things that don't make any sense. Basically, over the weekend, I went with my friends to our high school reunion, and while I was there, I drank a little bit too much, which is a little out of character for me. I had planned on drinking with them to celebrate this milestone in our lives, but I didn't realize that I was going to drink as much as I did and feel as triggered as I felt about certain things. Overall, I would say the reunion was a really great experience. It was so nice to see all these people who I hadn't seen in a while and reconnect and just like hear about everyone's lives, because I've known these people since I was like 5 years old, basically. So that was nice in and of itself, although the overwhelming part was the fact that there were so many people there that I wanted to like converse with and just find out about what they're doing, that I ended up drinking a little more than I planned on. I also had a SP, a specific person in mind that I knew their friends were going to be there and I was going to be triggered by seeing their friends, even though their friends were super friendly, super kind. There was no negative energy whatsoever. Everything was within me. It was my own wounds that I needed to heal around that specific person and my relationship to them, my connection to them, basically. So I knew it was all within me, and yet mixing these unhealed emotions, unhealed traumas with a certain substance caused me to get very triggered and spiral into an old version of myself that I have not seen in over a year, and I completely forgot was still within me and still needed to be healed and integrated. And when that version of me came out and I wasn't coherent enough to make wise decisions, she started acting out in her old ways and ended up calling that specific person a few times. That being said, the specific person did not pick up the phone, which definitely triggered that version of me even more. And I started acting out behaviors that I used to do when I felt ignored by that person in the past, and they were unhealthy behaviors that I thought I moved past, which I still believe that I have, but the fact that it still is in my energetic field for me to react like that when I feel like that says that I still need to work on the root of that, because I wouldn't have had the reaction I did if I had already worked through it. But that being said, when I woke up the next day, I didn't remember too much from that night. I had known what went down. My friend explained to me. I also saw my call log and I was like, gosh, like I thought I moved past that. I really did. Lo and behold, I hadn't. And that's okay, because we don't know what we don't know, and that is what shadow work is for. So you're not going to realize that you still have triggers that you have until you are triggered to react as the old version. The way you know you're healed is when those triggers come up again in your life, that you don't react the same way. And that's how you know you're healed. Dexter's chilling right there. Look at him. So pretty and cute. Back to what I was saying. So because I acted as the old version of myself, when my triggers came up, it showed me that there are still things that I need to heal from that version of myself and integrate into me now. So that way, when a situation like that comes up again, I have a different reaction. And that's how I know that I have changed and entered a new reality, is by how I react to the things that trigger me. So what I did after the fact to get myself back to homeostasis, where I am now, because when I woke up the next day, I was super anxious. I had crazy ruminating thoughts that I just couldn't shut off. And that part was really tough. Obviously, I was still recovering from consuming too much of the substance. So that on top of it wasn't helping, because it depleted all of my like happy chemicals in my brain, and my brain was just not functioning at 100%. Everything I was doing was like slowed down. It took me way longer to write captions for Snapchat than normal. I just like couldn't think properly. I just wasn't functioning, and I still feel like I'm getting back to functioning normally after that. But one thing I'm going to do differently now moving forward is continue to not consume those specific beverages until I feel like I can handle myself with them, and maybe not ever. I don't know. I won't say never, because celebrations happen and we want to celebrate. That being said, the version of me that came out, even though it was a part of me and was in my shadows, it was good for me to see that and acknowledge that it's still there. I would rather do that while more coherent, so I can work with that part of me in a more wise state. The first thing I did to really help myself move from the old story back to the story and the version, the reality that I built for myself right now, that has taken me a year to get to, over a year, was remind myself that that is an old version of me. That is just a old story, a past version. That is not me now. I brought that reality back up because there's something in there that I needed to work on, but that's not who I am now. I had to keep repetitively reminding myself that, because the looped thoughts, they do their thing. And I had to also remind myself that those looped thoughts are just looped thoughts. It's just rumination. That's not my life now. It's not who I am now. That's not dictating anything unless I choose for it to dictate this life for me. I also had to validate my feelings and be like, yes, you're anxious. Why do you think you're anxious? Well, you consumed too much of an unhealthy substance. You acted on behaviors that you thought you moved past. And right now, your nervous system is super dysregulated and you gotta re-regulate it. Then I used self-soothing techniques like slowing down and trying to be present with everything that I did and be aware of what I was doing when I was doing it, because when you are in rumination and you are feeling anxiety, it's really hard to be present in the moment. Another thing I did was stop mindlessly looking at social media to distract myself. If I did watch anything social media wise, it was stuff to remind me of who I really am and how I create my reality. It wasn't just like random whatever. It was stuff that would help me get back into alignment. And I think one of the most important things I did, which was really hard, was to not break my routine, because I knew if I started to break my routine and veer off in like any other direction, or just allow myself to not do the things that I have been doing this whole year that have gotten to me where I am now, then I was going to dig myself into a deeper hole. So even though it was hard, I continued to do my snaps. I continued to do my workouts. I didn't have an appetite, but I still went and made food. I still tried to eat. I did my editing work and allowed myself to take my time with it and slow down. Slowing down while doing everything that I normally do helped me the most, because I was like, okay, yes, you have things to do. We are not going to break routine because it's only going to cause you to feel more stressed later, but let's do these things slowly and mindfully. And that worked, because yesterday when I had woken up, I was still pretty anxious. It was 2 days after the reunion, but I was like, I'm gonna continue to do my stuff. And by the end of the night, I was basically back to how I am am now. And I was like, okay, you know, we had a little rocky start in the morning, but we worked through it. And if I didn't do all the things that I normally do to set me up for a good day in my mind, at the end of the day I would have been sitting there like, I feel worse. So by using the skill of opposite action to do the things that I know were gonna make me the best version of myself, help me get out of that old reality a lot quicker and back into the reality that I have been working on building for this past year. And now, even filming this video, I'm still detoxing, but I feel like I was able to learn a lot from that experience and become aware of inner things that I still need to work on and journal on and understand about myself so that I can live an even happier and more fulfilled life. Just like in last week's video where I talked about how to turn a negative situation into a positive outcome, that is what I did with this. The situation itself in the moment felt pretty negative. I was feeling a lot of low emotions like shame and guilt and sadness, but I was able to walk away from the situation and bounce back much quicker than I would have if this was a few years ago. And I was able to address those parts of me and be like, okay, you know, that's fair that you feel that way. Those are parts of you that you still are integrating and learning to love. But because we have gained this knowledge and have learned more things about ourselves, we can now look at this in a more positive light. It doesn't change the fact that the situation wasn't favorable, but the outcome now is a lot more favorable because I was able to realize things about myself that I forgot and have been bottling up for a while. And really, that's what matters the most, because the story is never over. And that's something I also reminded myself when I was feeling really low the other day was, okay, I feel really low right now, but this is just the middle of the movie. Like, we haven't gotten to the end yet where everything gets resolved within me. This is just a part of the drama in the movie where the protagonist needs to figure some stuff out about themselves and have their moment where they walk into the light. So I reminded myself of that it's just the hero's journey, and that also helped to bring me back to the more positive perspective of, oh, well, yeah, I'm gonna laugh about this later. I likened the whole situation to when Dexter got sprayed by a skunk, and I was super anxious, freaking out in the moment, like, oh my god, like, I don't know what to do. My cat is sick and running around the house. He can't open his eyes and mucus is coming out of all of his little nose and mouth and all of that. But then we took him to the vet, everything got handled, and the next day he was fine, happy, prancing, running around like he always does. And we were all laughing about the situation. Yes, the situation wasn't a positive situation, but we were able to walk away from it and laugh about it later. That was something I reminded myself while I was going for a walk yesterday. And also going for a walk really helped, just re-grounding in nature. I just did my normal walk around the block, but I will say, if you are ever feeling out of alignment or just wonky in whatever way, get off your phone, get off social media, get off electronics, get out of the house and get into nature. Even if it's a little cold, it was a little cold yesterday, but get into nature, be still, be around an animal. Dexter helped a lot. He let me pet him the other day. Be with people who make you feel safe, secure, understood, validated, or just allow yourself to exist with yourself in meditation, or if you can't get your mind to still in meditation, movement like walking, being outside. I highly recommend that whenever you feel out of alignment or just off the beat. It will bring you back to reality so quick. That's all I have for this video, and really at the end of the day, the journey is the destination. So even in the midst of a rocky ride, if we can realize that, we can move through the harder, more uncomfortable times much faster. And I will see you in my next video next week. I love you guys so much. Bye!